Hello and welcome back to The Goodness Margin, the place where we find margin for the good things in life. It has been about 7 years since I embarked on my paperless journey. I started being paperless before I even knew what minimalism was and really didn't see the correlation between that and when I began my minimalism journey. What had happened is I realized we had too many papers. We had this giant filing cabinet. Long story short, it was in what became my daughter's room in her nursery, and it was just not in a great place for me to access it. It had been an office before that, and so it was this big filing cabinet that we had nowhere to put. And I started looking into some alternatives and realized I did not need all of this paper. I'm going to link a video at the end of this video to share with you all about how you can be paperless too, because going paperless was one of the best decisions that I have ever made as far as to create function in my home, to take away from clutter. Paper clutter is one of those things that constantly seems to be nagging people. I hear about it all the time from many of you. You want to talk about paper clutter. Going paperless really eliminated that paper clutter from my life. So I'm 7 years in, and I just want to share with you some things that I have learned. But first, if you haven't already, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel, hit that bell, and you'll be notified when the next video goes live. I have an app on my phone called Time Hop. I'm sure there are other apps that do the exact same function as this app. But what it does is it goes through my social media and the photos on my phone, and it shows me what was happening on this day, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 15 years ago. It's amazing. And these memories that come up and things that I had forgotten that happened. Throughout the year, I will see 7 years ago pictures that I took on my phone where I started this journey of going paperless. But I will also see pictures of my desk from years before then. What I would do is I had a desk and a little cubby, and paper would just start to pile up on it. The mail would get thrown there, all of these things. And I would take a picture of it, typically send it to my sister, sort of as accountability, and say, okay, I'm challenging myself. I'm going to clean this desk off today. Not just clean it off, but I'm actually going to go through these papers. Because sometimes what would happen is we'd be having company come over, and my desk used to be in a little nook right near my kitchen. So they are going to see that. It's not something that I could hide. And what I would do is I would open a drawer and quickly go through the papers and maybe throw away trash, which why was there trash sitting on the desk? Stuff that needed to be in the trash can. But I would take anything that looked like it may be important, stash it in this drawer, and then another day I'd have to schedule a couple of hours to go through this drawer. I am pleased to tell you that is no longer my life. I no longer have to deal with these massive amounts of paper. And that is really because through these last 7 years, I have learned 5 things, and I'm going to share these 5 things with you. The first thing that I've learned about paper is to deal with it now. You will save yourself so much time in the long run if we just deal with it now. So what does that mean? It means whenever paper comes in my house, I'm going to deal with it now. If I'm cleaning my purse out and finding all of these receipts, rather than just taking those receipts and stashing them somewhere, I'm going to take 1 minute, 2 minutes at the most. I've literally timed myself and put it on social media to show what a short amount of time it actually takes for us to go through papers. Many times we feel overwhelmed by it, but if we just take those seconds right now to go through paper and deal with it now, it makes a huge difference. I'll take those receipts. What receipts do I need to keep? Do I have a digital version of these receipts? What can I throw away and what do I actually need to keep and file? And typically it's hardly anything and I throw all of it away. Otherwise, we're just adding an extra step by putting it somewhere else and maybe then putting it somewhere else and then going through it when it ultimately just needs to be thrown away. When mail comes in my house, we have unsubscribed from a lot of things, but we still get mail every single day. And just about every day, the majority of it is junk mail. If I have 10 pieces of mail, 9 pieces are going to be junk mail that need to be in the trash can. And one of those things is something that I may need to do something with it. So I'm going to go through it right away. I'm not just going to take it and sit it on my table or sit it on my counter. I'm going to go through the mail right then. That one thing, what do I need to do with it? And if it's something that I do need to do something with, but I don't have the time to do it right then, which the reality is typically I could stop and take the few minutes to deal with that bill or whatever that is. But if I don't want to deal with it right then, I have a folder that's my to-do folder and I go through that at least once a week. Deal with it now. We can almost completely eliminate paper clutter from our life if we will deal with the paper right now. The second thing I've learned is I probably don't need to keep this. It's amazing how many pieces of paper that we keep that we really don't need to keep. Do I really need this? Am I going to be locating this again? Is this something that I need to keep for tax purposes? Is this a receipt that I can just grab a picture of? So many stores now have apps. I know with grocery stores, I utilize Kroger, Walmart, Target, all of those. You can access your receipts on the app. I purchased a dress the other day from H&M. Bought a couple things, needed to return one thing. I had the app. I was able to find my receipt from the account that I had with them online. So there are so many things that we may need to access it again, but we have it available online or we have it in our email. And so do I really need to keep this? Do I really need to keep my power bill from the previous month? No, I don't even receive a paper copy of those. And I don't even need to download it because I can access several years of power bills on their website. Do I need to keep this? Really stop and think about it. This brings us to number 3. Digital is king. If we have something we need to keep, keeping it in a digital format is king. It is the best way for us to keep that. And it's so easy for us to do. So when I first started this journey, I scanned everything, and I probably have a lot of files that are absolutely unnecessary for me to keep because I just thought, well, I'm going through and scanning all of these files. And now, as I have grown through this process, there are not that many things that I scan in because I don't need to keep that much paper. Now that's for me personally. Business-wise is a little bit different, and that's just a totally different subject. But for us personally, there's not much paperwork that we need to keep. So remind yourself, I probably don't need to keep this. And if I do, keeping it in a digital format is the best thing we can do. You have a couple of options. You can use a scanner and scan these things in. Or now with our phones, there are so many ways that we can take photos, not just a photo, but you can literally scan a document and it turns into a PDF with so many apps on our phone. I have an iPhone and it automatically comes that way. I can do it in email. If I need to send an email of a document, I can do it in my notes app. It's so easy now for us to digitize something and not have to keep that piece of paper. The fourth thing is digital clutter is clutter. If we keep everything and we have all of these files, it can become clutter. So you need to find a good way to organize your digital files. What's the best way that you're organizing them? What is a way that you can save those where you can easily find something when you do need it again? And again, I have the formats that I use linked in my video from how I went paperless and the process that I use. That's going to be linked at the end of this video. But don't get so caught up with going digital with everything that you keep everything and then you have a lot of digital clutter. Go through and clean that up and find a good way that you can organize and store all of your digital files. And last but not least, I've learned this the hard way, don't rely on a service. When you are scanning documents that you need to keep. I'm not talking about notarized documents or birth certificates where you need to keep the original one. The type of documents I'm talking about is the paperwork for a loan. You want to keep that paperwork, especially where it shows that it's paid off. And so I'm going to scan that in. I have a couple of apps that I have used for different things or programs that I have used, but for any of those, I am just going to save those as a PDF. I'm going to name those and I'm going to save those on a remote hard drive. I am not going to utilize a service. Services change, things happen. For years, my husband and I have loved the program Evernote. We used it for so many things. I kept all of my recipes on it. Unfortunately, it was recently bought out by a different company and they have literally tripled the price for what they offer. That's ridiculous. I am no longer going to be using Evernote. Will use it, but I'm gonna only use the free version. And so what if I had all of those important documents in Evernote? Thankfully, I only had simple stuff that'll be easy for me to pull out and put somewhere else. But do not rely on a service for these important things. Instead, what you want to do is you want to just save those as a PDF, name them as something that's easy to find, and save them to your own device. And that way you're not relying on anyone else. Be sure to think about security. You don't want to save something that has personal information on a web-based program, a cloud-based program. You want to save that to an actual hard drive that is not connected to the internet, just for your own security. I can't say it enough. Going paperless has made a massive impact in my life. I do not have massive piles of paper. I don't have things that I have to sort through. It is easy for me to find the things that I need because I've learned I don't have to keep a lot, and what I do keep, I can scan that in. Dealing with paper right as it comes in my house has made a massive difference. We don't have piles lying around. It makes life so, so simple. So I encourage you, I'm telling you, after 7 years into this, I've lived this life. I will never go back. I would love to hear from you. Have you gone paperless? Are you interested in the paperless lifestyle? Because it has definitely added margin to my life for the good things. Before you go, I want to remind you, I'm drinking a cup of my favorite coffee from Testament Coffee Roasters. They have delicious, freshly roasted beans. You can save 20% if you go to their website and you use the code, The Goodness Margin, one word. I will have that linked also in the notes below.